A lot of times people see me out there and they think, well, Daymond's so good at this, or, he has so much knowledge here and that, and I really want to share with you that I often say that, well, I'm Batman and everybody else are Robin, but most of the time on my team, I'm Robin and most people are Batman because I've obviously worked with them because I felt that they add so much value and we can learn off each other. And it's a very symbiotic relationship. So I want to show a lot of people some of the behind the scenes people that you don't see that allows me to do what I do. I'm going to introduce you to Champ Nichols. Champ and I have been working with each other now, maybe even 20 years. Or something of that nature. He came aboard, then he left, and he came back, and we're going to get into a lot of that stuff. But Champ actually has played various different positions in my company and filled in various roles. And when I decided to start publicly speaking, I took Champ around and Champ basically said to me, "You should speak," and I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. And everybody told him, and I'm sure everybody here can relate to this, how, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you can't just come into the industry at all. And the same crap that I heard about walking into fashion, right? Because I had no technical knowledge in fashion besides being able to sew a straight line. And now Champ is one of the most sought after speaking coaches as well as speaking agents in the country. So I want to introduce you to my buddy Champ. What's up, Champ?
What's happening, D? What's going on, brother?
It's all good. I wanted to introduce a lot of people to you, and I'm going to get right into it. So, what initially, when we didn't really know each other growing up, we grew up in the same neighborhood. You were and still are a friend of Keith, my partner, and Keith brought you in. And we kind of met up, and you decided to come aboard with Fubu. But what was the first things that you found interesting in the Fubu business when you first when we first got introduced to each other? And when was that?
That was, I would say, I don't want to date myself as you always say, but I believe it was around 99, or right around 99, as you said. Our boy Keith kept telling me, said, "Hey man, me and my boys, we got this fashion thing." I didn't realize how big it was at the time, because the only places I was really seeing it in the neighborhood, and I probably wasn't paying attention. I remember our boy Tut had this basketball tournament called Touch to the Rack, and all the players would wear Fubu. And Keith kept saying, "Hey man, we're doing this thing," and I was like, "Cool, give me a shirt, man, and I'll wear it for you." Thinking I was kind of doing him a favor. And then one day, he invited me up to the office. And I'll never forget it. It was 66th floor of the Empire State Building, obviously, panoramic views. But it's what happened on the first day that I came to the office that made me decide I wanted to be part of the movement. And I'll never forget, it was two older, middle-aged white guys arguing. Now, these folks, they're good friends of mine. David Horowitz and John Copen. They were in the reception area, and I even remember what they were saying. I remember John was saying, "Listen, David, this was your idea. You're gonna have to tell them that, because if you don't, I'm gonna have to." And the other was like, "Don't throw me under the bus." And they was yelling at the top of their lungs, and then they was like, "Shh," and they got real quiet. And then I saw you coming down the hallway. And I remember it like it's today, and I remember specifically because you had on Timberlands like me, you had on Levi's like me, you even had on a Yankee cap tilted to the side the way I was. And I had done a lot of stuff in my life. I had been in positions of authority, but I had never seen two middle-aged white guys pay that much deference to somebody who was into hip hop like me, who looked like me, who talked like me, who walked like me. And I said, "Wow, this is something powerful. I want to be a part of it." Not only did I want to be a part of it because I saw the power, but I think the real power in it was that, it changed my perception of what it meant to be a businessman. And it changed my perception of the role I thought I could play in business. So just being around in that entrepreneurial environment that you started way back then, it just kind of hooked me from that first day.
And I guess what you're saying to an extent, and I felt the same way when I first saw Carl Kanai on a hang tag, and I said, wow, I can make clothes as well, and this young man looks just like me. I guess what you're saying is that, and I always say, when you stand on that entrepreneurial carpet and on Shark Tank, it doesn't care about your color, your gender, your creed, your sexual preference. It's the ultimate equalizer, and those two men you're talking about, I still work with them here and there, and they are, I got a massive amount of respect for them, and I love the fact that they came aboard too. And as we see today, all the social issues out there, and you see people that are more highlighting their differences. The good thing about in business, and like working with John and like working with David, they didn't care about my color. They didn't care about the Timberlands. They cared that we collectively got together and we were able to make change and make money, and get to employ more people. And I think that's what you're saying from that perspective. It's like, it is just powerful to be an entrepreneur. And that was the first time you saw collective groups gather over one common cause.
Yeah, Daymond, like you said, we grew up in the same neighborhood, and as you say, a lot of times we didn't see heroes, and it doesn't mean that they wasn't there. There was plenty of them there, but aside from the heroes, just the people that we aspired to be like. Most of the people in my neighborhood, the ones that were doing pretty well, most of them were civil servants, post office employees, firemen, police officers. And those are all very honorable professions, but I just didn't see business people, right. And the people that were working in business were trying to climb corporate ladders. They wasn't at the top of the ladder, so that I just got engrossed in that whole spirit.
So what was your first job? And, obviously I know it, but walk us through your first job at Fubu.
Well, my first job at Fubu was, that's when you guys started the record company. And I started as a record promoter. I didn't have any experience in that, but I loved hip hop. And I used to go out to clubs a lot anyway. And my first job was to try to get the records played on the radio and in the clubs. And back in New York back then, before I started hanging out with you guys and I was going to clubs, I had to actually stand online to get inside. But there was always like a couple of guys that used to be able to cut the line and go right in. And they was always carrying a little record in their hand. Back then, they was either working for Def Jam or Bad Boy or one of the labels that was popping back then. But those guys had influence. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I'm standing here paying money. This guy's going in VIP treatment. And he's getting paid. I was like, man, I could do this. Let me take part of this. So it was an affordable step, and it was something that I thought would be fun. And I figured, let me give it a try, because I got to hang out with all my stars and friends.
But let me be clear. I think unpacking that is important, because I want everybody to know you weren't getting paid to do this. This is a form of internship, and I do want people to understand, you weren't a down and out person who hadn't had a career, and we're not going to get into that stuff, but you were in a transition. You were already somebody who was making money, and you said, I'm going to put this time in with no guarantees for that. And it kind of reminds me of when I started Fubu, when I was like, people didn't know where the video sets were. Or if you got to the video set, they were kicking you off. But now that I had these couple of shirts, and I can lie and not even lie, but say, yo, you know what? I'm here to dress the artist, even though the artist didn't know I was there to dress them. I was just hoping, but it gave me a reason or a way to stay on these video sets, to watch some of who I think still today, Run DMC and LL and all these, some of the greatest artists of our time, perform these videos, and it just gave me a sense of belonging and made me feel important. I think that we can resonate to both of our stories like that.
Absolutely, because when I joined Fubu, it wasn't even a job per se. There was no particular position that I wanted. It was more like a movement and what Fubu stood for, and I wanted to be a part of that. I didn't know how I was going to make myself valuable at the time or create any revenue, but I wanted to be a part of the movement.
Now, we did come out with an album, and thank you. You helped put out the album, the Good Life album, and it had a lot of great songs on there, like Fatty Girl, Lights, Camera, Action from Mr. Cheeks, 50 Players Deep, and we did really well with it. And then we had our group, 54 Platoon, that you would end up working that. But Napster came around, and a lot of different changes happened, and disruption happened in the market. The same way today we look at COVID and disruption happened, and things are always going to happen. And all of a sudden we decided to close the record business because the companies that were record companies were closing. So let alone why would a fashion company who was just trying to show that we have a real history of passion and love for hip hop, we closed it. You stuck around though, and what happened after that, and when did you end up finally getting paid, and how long was it? I'm curious. I want people to hear this.
I well, you're talking about a 2-year journey from when I started. We call it an internship, but I wasn't actually in school. Like I always say, I was just wandering around trying to figure out how I can provide some value. So I was figuring out a lot of stuff. I was working in the music business. As you said, the music, you decided to close the label, but I think you saw something in me because actually, aside from the founders of the company, I think I was the sole survivor of the record division. And you took me after about 2 years. Once you closed the record division, you put me in the international division. And what happened then is all the contacts that I had made trying to get these records put on the radio and in clubs, all the contacts I had made with artists, I started using that network to cross-promote the clothing internationally. And that's where I started to make money and connect dots and get certain influencers to wear the clothing for you. So even before I was making much money as a paycheck, I was finding other opportunities or creating other opportunities.
2 years is a long period of time to not get paid. I'm not sure if it was 2 years you didn't get paid. Was it 2 years?
It was 2 years before I was actually on payroll, and probably a year and a half before I figured out how to create revenue. But until I was actually on payroll, it was 2 years.
Most people would say, listen, all these guys are getting paid because we were obviously, we were at that time, we were buying Bentleys and buying a bunch of homes. Yep. And most people who would say, listen, what am I doing? You know, it's going on 2 years, right? And the record division is closed. Fubu was starting to slow down. And even if Fubu's height, I wasn't getting paid. Why would you stick around? And what would you say to people now? Because some people would say, I'm staying in for 6 months, maybe a year. But after you get to 2 years, I mean, why would you stick around? And where did you see the benefit? Or was it just faith? Or did you have a goal? Listen, I'm going to put in 3 years, and if nothing happens, just tell me the mental place that you were.
Yeah, I think I kept setting goals like for a year at a time. And you're right, I wasn't making money, but I was learning a lot of valuable lessons. One thing, like at Fubu, it was like an open book. You can go into different departments. And if you're interning and you're just learning to be a Swiss Army knife, in that kind of environment, it was great because if I may have been helping the sales team one day and then they didn't need anything. And then I would go over to the designers and talk to them and go into their little section. Then you had marketing and branding and you did all of that stuff in-house. So I was able to go over there with John and David and learn. So, I mean, I was just learning more businesses. I was creating more contacts. I was connecting dots and starting to figure out little ways to make money that way. So I guess the underline answer your question, really, it was just that I was having fun and I was constantly learning. And I figured that eventually I would create something of value in the company.
I really hope you enjoyed seeing part of what makes me who I am. I would not be here today without my team. I hope you really enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. And if you want to see more of my team, make sure you subscribe. What's up? Now, it's the Sharp Daymond John here. And if you're already here, I already know you're dedicated to bettering yourself and learning as much as you can. To learn even more, subscribe to my channel and make sure that you don't miss any of these valuable videos. And I will see you next time.